Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his good friend Matt, the lumberjack landlord. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing super awesome. It just occurred to me that I think next week's show I'll be in my new studio.
Ooh, I look
Oh,
forward to this. It's in the house, I'm guessing.
it is. Yeah. Yeah. We quarantined off another area.
That's what happens when you got a gazillion square feet. You just we'll put one over there, honey. I didn't even know we had this room.
Legit. That's basically what happened. I was just like, all I see is three couches sitting there. They never do anything. No one ever sits there.
Yeah,
We never have that many
look at the
people
layer
over.
of dust.
Yeah.
Nobody's
She
even
goes, she
cleaned
goes,
them.
we've been in quarantine for a year. What do you mean? And I go, that's besides the point. We weren't in quarantine for the year and a half before that. She goes, yeah, but the world was. I go, details, details.
Details,
I
details.
was like, so I'm making this my section.
Yeah,
So
this is mine, honey.
it
That's
is.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
hey, what I want to talk about here is something that you and I experienced,
Okay.
and then talk about how it might or may not or whatever blow up the real estate market. But let's go back. You and I really cut our teeth, obviously, in sales. We have that background, but we also cut our teeth in what became the .com crash.
Oh,
We both
yes.
lost a significant portion of our stack, probably a similar percentage. My stack, I'm a little bit older, was a little bit bigger.
It was a lot bigger.
It sucked. But again, we both experienced the same pain.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I will admit that pain stuck with me for more than 20 years.
Yes.
I scar, don't touch hot stove. So I
Yes.
missed the big run up. I didn't put a dollar in the stock market for 20 years.
Yes.
And so do you remember it the same way?
Yes. I literally remember having a conversation with the guy in the cubby behind me, Dave Callahan. Dave Callahan.
Shout
And
out,
if you're
Dave.
out there, I still wish I had never listened to you.
Yeah, Dave, you did it to me.
I was sitting there and I was like, dude, I was in it 16 and now it's at 20 in 3 days. I think time the getting's good.
Right.
And he goes, no one ever gets rich by punking out. And I was like, what
I'm
is
not
that?
a punk.
And he goes, dude, you gotta hold it. If you believe in the stock, you just gotta hold it and keep on holding it. I said, I don't particularly believe in the stock. I believe that it hit
Yeah.
and I'm ready. I said, I'm not a pig. I'm not gonna get greedy.
Yeah. Right.
And he
Right.
goes, not gonna get rich doing it that way. The next day they announced that the contract that they had announced the previous day that made it pop $4
It was fake.
was fake.
Oops.
So Dave Callahan.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave Callahan.
Dave. Well, yeah, I got burned on a couple of frauds, but that's
Yeah.
not what this is about. This is about the stock market and what you and I experienced after that. So again, if we look at the stock market 2022, what may or may not happen in 2023, I just want to play a what if game for you.
Sure.
I think the S&P peaked at 49 or 4,800. Let's call it $5,000.
Okay.
Let's just pretend sometime between now and next year, end of next year, we get a 50% haircut from the peak. So again, in this simple example, it's 2,500.
Okay.
I think this morning it's trading around 3,850 or so. So again, it's even from current price, 3,850. What is that? Another 35% down, something like that.
Yeah.
What I want to do with you is talk about what happens. Okay, it's July 21st. It's October 2nd, and S&P is 2,500. What do you think happens? Because there's a lot of buy the dippers. There's a lot of 401ks become 201ks. What happens to the psychology of investors? And, oh, by the way, let's not forget, some investors will double down and buy heavy. So maybe that helped some. But what do you think happens? Because you and I experienced the .com crash, and it went down for 5 years.
Yeah, it did.
It was like a death by 1,000 cuts year after year, month after month. Not this wicked, March crash and V bottom.
Yeah.
It was painful. So, let's say we get there in, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 months. What's the psychology of folks in the market, you think?
Oh, I mean, real quick story from New England. Patriots, they built their new stadium. You know what the name of that stadium was for only the first year?
Oh, I don't know. What was it?
CMGI. Remember that company? It was a conglomeration of a bunch of marketing companies.
I do remember, yeah.
$190 a share, like they're the best. Yeah, Yeah. The next year or maybe two, it was renamed Gillette Stadium.
There you go.
Because only Gillette could buy, because basically they had to sell out because they couldn't afford it. They were buying.
Yeah, the naming rights were the only thing of value on their balance sheet.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, I'm not a stock guy, but I am a market guy.
Yeah.
And so in looking at the market, everything got very, very, very overvalued with
Yep.
40% of the cash that we've ever, created. We created last year in the last 2 years. Inflation is crazy high. And the problem that that's going to have is that's going to start to drag things down because margins are going to be compressed and, recession and economy. I agree with you that I think housing pulls us into recession.
I think so. Yeah.
Because I was talking to one of my brokers this morning. And I said, okay, last year to this year, where are you at? He goes, I'm going to be down 20%.
Oh,
I said, next year, I said, this year to next year. He goes, I'm going to be down another 20%. I go, you think so? He goes, yep, I do. I said, and this is a really conservative guy. He's like, I don't do any layoffs. He goes, I have to, dial back the spending on like advertising. He goes, I'll probably dial that back. He goes, but these people who built up these kingdoms of 10, 12, 15, 20 people, they're in trouble. I said, oh, dude, they're going to get crushed. Yeah. They're going to get crushed. Like, no more 3 admins to make you feel good. Oh, she's my coffee admin and he's my gym admin and she's my this. Like, you're not taking turns naming your admins. Yeah. Those days are gone. So I think the market, I don't know that the market will correct 50%, but I think it will correct heavily. Yeah. I think everybody in the next 6 months is going to be doing earnings warnings. Yeah. I don't believe in how many times have you and I in our 25-year career, or my 25-year career, your 35-year or 30-year career, how many times we looked at it and they're like, oh yeah, no, you don't understand how this business works. Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead, explain it to me. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Hey, I have a better idea. Explain it to me like I'm a 9th grade dropout. Go ahead. And then they explain it. They're like, no. See, what we do here is we take people that don't get loans from banks and we give them loans uncollateralized on consumer products. Yeah. That's the next idea. Yeah, your idea sucks. It's dumb. Yeah. Let me guess. You're going to get a lot of people. Yeah, exactly. Oh, defaults are going to be off the charts. That's just dumb. It's difficult enough on a car. Yeah. And that's parked outside. You can't put that in your living room. You can't put a TV in your I lost it in the lake. Yeah, exactly. Like your couch. Like there's going to be scenes where people's couches are going to get repossessed. And I find it funny, not because of the bad thing that's happening to somebody, but because there are people out there that think that they invented layaway. Yeah, I do too. I think that is so comical. Oh, you invented layaway, except layaway of my day, the product stayed on the shelf in the back until you were done. Now you're giving it to me? Oh, yeah. That's a smart move. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'll make sure to make this $17 payment this month on my George Foreman Grill which I'm not using anymore. It's broken into the back. Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, but Mike, we don't understand the business model. Maybe they could explain it better. Yeah, but I mean, I want to go back to the psychology, right? Because again, at some point, again, if this happened, we're not calling this. I'm just trying to relive what happened in my .com days with what could happen in the future. There will be a time where, unfortunately, my 401k became a 201k is not a joke. Yeah. Right. So people will see their 401k balances and that will have an impact. And that is really, part of negative wealth effect, whether people like it or not. When you see your 401k, which is your retirement, cut in half, you're not going to feel as rich. Right. And that's going to cause people to be conservative. The other thing I think about is, let's say it's not in a 401k, right? 401k is retirement. It's, dollar cost averaging with, every paycheck, all of that. Maybe some people can, put that off as the future and not look at it. But now let's go back to the people that have been dumping stuff in Robinhood and YOLOing this or that meme stock and, whatever. If you're out on the extreme of gambling and heaven forbid you're on margin, shoot, dude, you're going to go to zero if this happened, a lot of people are going to go to zero and margin calls will happen everywhere. Yep. Yeah. I think, it's scary to borrow money to invest in a non-cash producing asset. And I look at it and it's like, I have conversations. I have a lot of friends that are older than me, 10, 15 years older than me. And so they're in that 5-year spectrum of like, I'm getting ready to retire. Yeah. We're in the same place in life.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is that, we're having that conversation and I was like, but what if rates are 10, like then you get a decent savings rate. But what happened if the market is still in half?
Yeah.
What happens if the stocks, because they're in some stocks.
Absolutely.
So dollar cost averaging, what happens if some of those you disappear?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that scares me. So for me, and I just said, they said, well, how do you feel about that? And I said, here's how I feel about it. If the house that I bought is worth 500 and now it's worth 250, the rent didn't go down in half.
No.
My assets still performing. It doesn't matter what my money into it is.
Yeah.
It only matters that
my net worth got hit. Big deal.
Exactly. So my PFS is not going to light it on fire this year. Way it goes. That's fine. I'm in it for the cash flow. Yeah. So I told them, I said, I also don't know. The thing that I always look at and that always scared me was I never knew the year that I retired if my portfolio was going to be up 100% or down 50 and I had to start taking distributions from it.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Yeah. And then let's close out on this in real estate, because I think there's definitely a couple impacts on real estate. First and foremost, where I live in other expensive areas. So I live in the Silicon Valley, very tech heavy, obviously, lots of RSUs or options or stock, people are buying homes. Mm-hmm. If we continue to see a tech wreck, Facebook is way down, Nvidia getting spanked, and all these companies are getting spanked. If that continues to happen, we're going to see the Bay Area fall. I think San Jose is already down like 8 or 9% from the peak. Yeah. It could get a lot worse. And this, I mean, I remember, what I remember most about the .com era, other than losing nearly 200 grand, was just how long listings stayed on the market.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because in my little community, I think it's like 450 condos / homes. One of those little elbows go in the ground. It's got, it's off the market in a day. Today, maybe it's 5 or 6 days. Back in the .com crash, when we were 20 years younger, right? The homes were like 3 years old at this point, right? They weren't 30, 23 years old. They were 3 years old. I remember stuff staying for months. Days on market had to go over 60 days.
Well, that was one of the things I was talking about with one of my brokers was he said, what do you think I'm looking at next year? I said, I think you're honestly looking at stuff being on the market for 60 days.
Yeah.
And I said, I think transactions, it's looking like what I called 6 months ago of transactions at under a 4 million clip. It's going to happen next year.
Oh, it could happen by December.
It could. And so if we're at that average, I said, you need to figure out how you run your business on half.
Exactly. That's what I'm telling every broker I talk with. It may not happen. I hope it doesn't, but that's what I'd plan for sure.
Yep. I also tell them, I've told a number of younger reps to get diversified and start doing rentals.
Yeah. Do leases.
Yeah. I said, start doing rentals as quickly as you possibly can. Start to build a name. Make sure your social media presence is up and on point.
Yeah. That's what Graham, people need to remember. That's what Graham Stephan did before Graham Stephan was Graham Stephan. He cut his teeth in the worst real estate crash ever by leasing spaces.
Yep. And I think that that's really important. And I think that, the other thing that you have to consider as well is that you probably have to do a different commission structure. Because for me, I actually pay my agents that do my leasing. I pay them by the hour.
Okay.
I pay them by the hour because I said, listen, the market right now is unbelievably hot. I'm giving you an asset to put out there and it takes you 6 to 8 hours to get it rented. I'm not paying you $2,000.
Yeah.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
So we just come up with a number that works. But yeah, I pay by the hour for that stuff. So start getting creative. If you're an agent, start contacting people that you know are landlords that might be paying, that aren't paying property management companies and saying, yeah, I'll do it by the hour. And, typically we're going to be at, 20 hours invested in this property. And it's much less than what they pay an agent.
Yeah.
But it gets you the contact. Likely landlords don't usually only have one property.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing to talk about real estate, at least it was for me, and I think similar for you, once I was burned by the stock market and realized I wasn't the next Warren Buffett, I had to find another vehicle. Sure. So all my focus pivoted to real estate. It was physical. I could touch it. After being burned by a couple of frauds, I'm like, can't do it. They were audited by the Big Five. They were approved by this New York Stock Exchange. I don't know. So didn't go back for 15 or 20 years. But yeah, for me, real estate became the only option. It's physical. I could touch it. I could learn it. It's an inefficient market. I could create value. It just became my thing. So something that may happen once this thing gets to the bottom and people kind of realize they're not Warren Buffett, you'll be shocked at how many people turn to real estate as like their thing for their future. At least that's what happened to me.
I think the turn this time around is going to be, instead of gold, crypto, or crypto to gold.
Okay.
I think that people that, that aren't convicted about crypto,
Yeah.
I think they just go, no, I want to hold gold. I want to hold
It's
silver.
physical. I can touch it. I can store it. It's not some key on some fob.
Same mindset. It's just they're going from crypto coins that are digital to real, real assets in their hands.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the transitions that happens this time too.
Yeah, very cool. Well, do me a favor. It's going to be really fun to watch. We are not calling for a 50% crash in the stock market. We don't want a 50% crash. Nope. This was just, hey, it happened to us. What might happen if it happened? And Matt, where can people find you?
If there is a 50% crash in stocks, there are companies that I'm watching right now that I will start buying.
I actually moved a decent portfolio of cash to my Schwab account for the first time in 19 years.
I know it's a little bit, it was awkward to move stuff into.
Yeah, it's like, why am I doing this again?
I was like, am I really ready for round 2? So yeah, you can find me Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Instagram, announcing my live streams on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, where we take your questions for 90 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Mike.